Hey yo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV again today. We have more breaking news as the WWE flexes their muscle here in the Big Apple and reestablishes their stronghold on the world of professional wrestling at Madison Square Garden, and we are here to bring you the story right here and right now, like we can only do on the newest, fastest rising podcast in all of YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Podbean, baby. Take it like you mean it. It's time for the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. Let's do it again, and not for the last time today.
Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
Alright, wrestling fans, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Nick Nightmare. Along with me, as always, is the world's greatest tag team, Thor the Sledgehammer, the wrestling god of thunder, and the official sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, my little buddy and most trusted companion in the entire world, and the world heavyweight champion of all the microphones in the universe, Blue the Snowball. This is the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's breaking news part number 2. We never do things in parts, but we got rapid-fire news reports coming at you guys today. Right? We got stuff actually bubbling up and popping up all over the news for once. It's been kind of quiet. I don't like to usually report on every little tidbit and every little thing. But being that we broke to you guys the story about Madison Square Garden possibly opening up their doors to other wrestling promotions due to their unhappiness with the current state of the WWE and the way they've been running things as of late, I needed to be the one to bring you guys the follow-up story. And being that we're a New York City show, this studio is located in New York. I have attended many fantastic wrestling moments at Madison Square Garden. The world's greatest arena deserves my attention as a diehard New Yorker, and I want to bring you guys my point of view. But before we talk about all the bullshit, let me bring to you the facts as the story was dropped by our friends at the Pro Wrestling Sheet and Ryan Satin, my buddy over there, and let's bring to you that official story right now. As previously reported, Sinclair Broadcast Group CEO Chris Ripley was recently interviewed and talked about ROH's plans to run a show at MSG sometime next year. However, it looks like Ring of Honor won't be running a Madison Square Garden show after all, at least for the foreseeable future, according to COO Joe Koff. Koff spoke to PW Insider and stated that the world's most famous arena pulled their date after Madison Square Garden executives had a conversation with officials from the WWE. Here's his official statement, and I quote, "We had a deal with Madison Square Garden, and they told us they were backing out after communications from the WWE. We are not able to get any other dates in any kind of discussion. I'm expecting that our lawyers will be contacting all the parties involved, and the best we can hope is that we can find a resolution so we can bring the kind of energy and excitement that ROH and our partner New Japan to a bigger audience and to bigger arenas and to fans of New York City," end quote. There was also talk of AAA running at the venue. That seems to not be able to happen as well. Pro Wrestling Sheet reached out to the WWE for comment on the whole entire situation with no response as of yet, and as always, we will keep you updated if any statement is released on the matter. And the reason why we're doing a report on this show, not just because I'm a New York guy, but because this is probably one of Vince McMahon's biggest dick moves I have ever seen. Why does he give a shit if another wrestling promotion wants to run a night at Madison Square Garden, as long as it doesn't coincide with a weekend of your show, or if it's not booked against a pay-per-view of some kind, if it's going to have no actual detrimental effects to your pocket or to your show, it's not going to hurt the industry. I don't understand what the need for exclusivity in Madison Square Garden is, especially when you take into the fact that Madison Square Garden has very scarcely been used for anything major. The last big-time event I truly remember being at Madison Square Garden was the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which I sat in the audience for and watched Bruno Sammartino take his place amongst the legends that night. After that, what do we get? The Road to WrestleMania tour, the Live Holiday tour, the Summer Heat Wave tour. Nothing big or momentous happening at Madison Square Garden, and Madison Square Garden was feeling that. Because for the last 4 years, the WWE has set Brooklyn as home base. The Barclays Center has gobbled up all of the WWE stuff going on in New York City. It has pretty much become their new central hub when they come to the Big Apple. I don't understand why. I mean, maybe it's because of the fees. We talked about that. Madison Square Garden has high pricing, and there's issues with the labor and the union and things of that nature, and all kinds of technical and financial bullshit that I don't even care to know or get involved in. When you look at things as a fan and you see how Madison Square Garden has played such an important part in building the WWE, for over the last 3.5 more decades for Vince McMahon, but even back into the 1920s for Vincent J. McMahon, where Madison Square Garden was the mecca for WWF action. And it still remained to hold that aura for quite some time. But when was the last time we had a WrestleMania at Madison Square Garden? We talked about that last time as, it's not big enough to house what Vince McMahon wants to announce the seating for WrestleMania. They're looking for 100,000 plus arenas and stadiums and things like that for shows like a WrestleMania. But that argument doesn't hold water when you talk about an event like SummerSlam, which is being housed at the Barclays Center, which probably has less seats than what Madison Square Garden can accommodate. And I don't understand why, when they come to New York for SummerSlam weekend, I think it would be absolutely appropriate to have NXT at the Barclays, and then you have SummerSlam at Madison Square Garden, and then you could have Raw and SmackDown at the Barclays as well. But why not have the biggest event of the weekend at the biggest and greatest arena in the whole entire world, and historic place in professional wrestling history, a very special place in the WWE lore, but instead you're just going to throw them to the side. They're not running one event at Madison Square Garden the entirety of SummerSlam week. They're going to be in New York for over a week. There's nothing going on at the Garden. But they're going to have the Summer Heat Wave tour. Who gives a shit about house shows? If you're Madison Square Garden, you're looking like the redheaded stepchild right now. You feel like you're being let out to the woodshed, getting ready to get whacked by this company. Why don't they want to use a staple of professional wrestling? The house that Hogan and Vince helped build in the 80s. The new Madison Square Garden. With such a long-standing history. It just doesn't make sense. And if the bottom line really comes down to financial situations, I said it before and I'll say it here again. If you're Madison Square Garden and you're feeling that pissed off that Vince and everybody's keeping you out in the cold, you know it's because your prices are too high. Lower your prices just for them. Because they've been around longer than half of the staff that works for Madison Square Garden right now. The WWE MSG relationship has been around for over 100 years, almost 100 years. Maybe more. Why not give them some special privilege? Why not give them something to entice them to run a SummerSlam back in New York City? So that all of us who live in New York don't have to travel out to Jersey when WrestleMania comes to town. Or why not at least do that? WrestleMania weekend, you could have NXT take over from Madison Square Garden? What? That's epic. And then you run WrestleMania 35 at the Meadowlands. I think they would be happy with something like that. I certainly would take that. You can have the Hall of Fame at the Barclays Center, and then everybody gets a piece of the pie and everybody's happy. Run Raw and SmackDown at the Barclays. WrestleMania Sunday at the Meadowlands. NXT Saturday at the Garden. Raw and SmackDown at the Barclays. everybody's fucking happy. WWE truly takes over the entirety of New York City. Manhattan is the heartbeat of this city. Why would you not want to be there? The Barclays is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't understand why loyalty is not rewarded. On both ends, really. Both of these guys are acting like stubborn children. Well, you don't want to play in my backyard. Well, your backyard's too expensive. Nah. Well, our dads used to play together all the time. Nah. But the story here really is not the relationship so much between the WWE and MSG. It's the ramifications of this and how it's going to affect companies like Ring of Honor and New Japan and AAA Mexico. And why can't they come and showcase their talent at a Madison Square Garden? I don't understand that mentality. Why do you need to have this is my place mentality? Do you not share other arenas all over the world? Do you have some sort of an exclusivity with anything in Chicago? You know, the Allstate Arena, aren't they having All In? And that's just what we had Money in the Bank. Why can we do things like that? You go over to Japan, you want to run house shows and shit, and you want to run special things, global events in Australia. You don't think New Japan and Ring of Honor have been in Australia? What's so special about Madison Square Garden to you if you don't want to use it? Why not let other people use it? It's only going to increase the business as a whole. It's going to gain attention to pro wrestling as a whole. And like I said, as long as it's not going to coincide with anything you're running in the area or on that night specifically, why do you care? It's obvious that you don't care. I laid it out for you right here. When all you get is bullshit house shows at the world's greatest arena, you don't really view it that way, do you? You're more worried about spending money. You're making so much money, you want to tell the world how you guys are printing cash in the WWE, but you don't find it worth investing in history, worth investing in something truly special like being at Madison Square Garden. Why? Because you're mad at Madison Square Garden because they didn't upgrade the facilities? It's Madison Square Garden. It's still Madison Square Garden. That is the very ground where WrestleMania 1 took place, where the first SummerSlam took place. I've been to Survivor Series there on multiple occasions. I was there for the first Elimination Chamber at Madison Square Garden. These are the moments that need to happen at Madison Square Garden, not the live holiday tour. Not the WrestleMania Revenge Tour. Or whatever the fuck clever name they want to try to spin on what is just a house show. Granted, house shows are great. But think about it if you're Madison Square Garden. For all this time, we've been the best of friends. You always run your great shows in our house. Every once in a while, you throw a big show here. But now for 4 consecutive years, you've left us out completely in the cold, giving us absolutely no attention whatsoever every single time you come to our neighborhood and blow it up with a SummerSlam. You can't blame them for wanting to move on. But what a dick move by Vince McMahon to keep Ring of Honor out of Madison Square Garden. Sending notification and getting your lawyers and shit involved. That only shows you guys that if you don't think he's watching and you don't think he's paying attention to everything else, you're out of your mind. He's going to change his tune about Madison Square Garden. Don't be surprised now if we actually get something like what I just said and an NXT pops up at the Garden, or we finally have a Raw or a SmackDown again at Madison Square Garden once in a while. You had the 25th anniversary of Raw. Madison Square Garden was across the street from the Manhattan Center. That would have made logistic sense for a dual-booked show. But instead you booked Raw at the Barclays so that people couldn't just run across the street and you could actually have 2 shows running at once. You had The Miz across town, sitting in traffic, stressed out like a maniac trying to get from venue A to venue B when he could have very easily walked across the street. And what better Raw could have emanated from Madison Square Garden than the 25th anniversary? So they're looking at all these things, and you have to be on their side. You just have to be. But this aggressive tactic by Vince McMahon, very, very dick-like. Such a bullshit maneuver. And I really don't understand why he thinks he needs to have the Garden all to himself. I really, really don't. I don't. That's really all I have to say about it. Ring of Honor and New Japan will find some place to run their show. Madison Square Garden may be a ways off. Hopefully their lawyers do get involved and they find some way to come to some sort of an agreement so that this type of shit is just done and over with. You can't be exclusive to an arena anymore, especially if you're not going to be there on a regular basis. It doesn't make sense to me. You're not the Knicks. You're not the Islanders. You're not doing 160-something games. You're not doing 82 games plus playoffs and this and that, generating all this revenue for the Garden. Why is the WWE so special? Why do they get to go in and and flex their muscle and bully these guys into keeping everybody else out? Doesn't make sense. It makes me mad. It makes me mad because there's a whole lot more to the world of professional wrestling than the WWE. And now, in this time, this day and age that we live in, I think everybody should be allowed a piece of the pie. And Madison Square Garden is a very historic place for wrestling. Why not have something else there? What the hell do you care? You're making your money either way, right? See you in Brooklyn for NXT TakeOver 4. That's all I have to say on this situation. It's fucked up, and I don't like it. And we'll have to see where it goes from here. As we said earlier, we will keep you updated on anything that is dropped regarding this situation, as Madison Square Garden is near and dear to us here, and hopefully the doors will be open to all professional wrestling sometime in my lifetime. That is what I hope to see. My name is Nick Nightmare. With me, as always, is the world's greatest tag team, Thor the Sledgehammer, the wrestling god of thunder, and the official sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, the world heavyweight champion of microphones. Look at him! Blue! The shiny chrome dome bastard Snowball. I love him to death. I know you guys love him too. Thank you guys for watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show right here on Sledgehammer TV for another rapid-fire breaking news report today. We got SmackDown Live going up in just about 7 minutes. We got to get this video wrapped up and get our ass in front of that couch with our notepad ready to go so that we can bring you the very best in professional wrestling news, reviews, highlights, and coverage. And it all lives right here on Sledgehammer TV and the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. If you are not a member of the Sledgehammer Club and you are still here with us right now, what the hell is your problem, bro? What are you waiting for? Get mad, get aggressive like the WWE, and instead of boxing out Ring of Honor, hit that subscribe button right now and join the hundreds of people that already know that this is the absolute best place to get your wrestling news when you want it, unfiltered, uncooked, uncut, super, super fresh and funny and clean and whatever other adjectives. I just went on a complete blank, so I had to throw that line out there at you, and that was a completely bullshit line, but I keep it true. I bring the hammer down on myself right now. And that is how we are going to end this show. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. That's where we were going. Subscribe to this channel. Hit that thumbs up. Make sure everybody knows that you enjoyed this show, even though I just completely fucked up the end. But that's the way it is sometimes, right here on the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. Thank you guys so much for joining me. That is going to do it, and we are out of here. And we will see you in just a couple of hours for the SmackDown Live review right here on the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. Have a